Hare Krishna. I'll be reading from One Step Towards Krishna. How Govindas got out of the well. Govindas's aunt sent him a little writing book for a birthday present. There was a place in the book for a pencil. Govindas liked this little book very much and always kept it in his pocket. One Saturday, when there was no school, Govind left the Gurukul property where he lived and walked to the Goshala where the cows are taken care of. There he found Copper, a little brown dog who lived with the cows and guarded them. Together, Govind and Copper liked to go exploring, so they wandered from one field to the next. Govind brought his little book and his measuring tape for a certain purpose he had in mind. When Govind Das and Copper reached a field which was overgrown with flowering vines and old trees, they came to a deserted well. Actually, it had never been useful as a well. It was only halfway dug into the ground, and no water had ever come from that hole. But all the Gurukul boys liked to go there and yell down into it or throw rocks to try to see how deep it was. Govind attached a rock into the end of his measuring tape with some wire. He lowered the end with the rock attached to the bottom of the well. Then he would be able to write down in his notepad how deep the well was and show the boys at the ashram. Soon the strong, bright sun began to go down. At the ashram, the devotees began to wonder, "Where is Govind?" They waited an hour, and still he did not come back. They went to tell their ashram teacher, who went with the other teachers, calling, "Govind! Govind!" They hunted all night. Where was Govindas? Well, while everyone was filled with anxiety, Govind was feeling just as bad, if not worse. For when he had been leaning over to lower his measuring tape down into the well, the loose earth crumbled under his weight and he fell into the deep hole. The earth had been covered by long grasses, so Govind couldn't tell it was dangerous. Although he tried very hard to climb out, the soft earth on the walls of the hole just gave way under his grasp and put dust in his face. After some time, Copper began to bark at Govind because he wanted him to come out of the hole and go home. He whined and ran around and around the hole until he, too, with his weight on a weak place, slid down into it. As it grew dark and cold outside, Govind cried. His crying grew into chanting and singing the Lord's holy names. Govind was lucky, for he had always loved to sing bhajans. He could remember a few of them at this time, when he was so afraid. It had become dark. Krishna's name is very nice, he thought to himself, though he was afraid. I have never sung his name so carefully as I am now. Govind became exhausted. The two friends slept together, side by side, cramped in the hole. But at first crack of dawn, Govind finally knew what to do. He wrote a letter to his teachers and with a piece of wire from off the measuring tape, attached the letter took Copper's collar. He made it so it could be easily seen. Then he picked up the little dog and with all his strength flung him as far as possible. So he cleared the opening of the hole. "Go home, Copper," Govind yelled. Copper was very hungry, so he had no problem running home. When Copper came running into the Goshala, everyone saw the big white paper around his collar. How glad they all were to read the letter from Govind. Govind's teachers ran to the old deserted well and with the help of some heavy rope hoisted him out. After that, several men brought shawls and filled the hole so the same accident would not happen again. But at the Gurukul, they fed Govind a nice breakfast of scrambled curd, puris, vegetable soup, and sweet rice, all offered to the ashram deities. Govind felt like he was starved, although it really hadn't been that long since he had eaten. He ate very quickly, stopping only to explain to everyone how much he loved the holy name of Krishna when he was trapped in the well. Thank you. Hare Krishna.